The champagne flutes shattered against marble when Marcus Hale threw them. 300 guests froze in the grand ballroom of the Hale Tower, men in tuxedos worth more than cars, women dripping in diamonds that could fund hospitals. The charity gala had been perfect until 30 seconds ago. Now the city's most powerful billionaire stood at the microphone, his hand still raised from the violent gesture, his face twisted into something none of them recognized. "I have an announcement," Marcus said, his voice amplified through speakers that made it sound like God himself was speaking. "My marriage is over." The silence that followed was suffocating. Nadia Hale stood 10 feet away, her bronze skin suddenly ashen beneath the chandelier light. The emerald gown Marcus had chosen for her that morning now felt like a costume, like armor that had failed. She should have noticed the betrayal coming. The signs had been there, his late nights, his cold shoulders, the way he'd stopped saying her name like it mattered. But not this. Not here. Not in front of everyone. "Nadia and I," Marcus continued, his eyes sweeping the crowd but never landing on her, "are getting divorced. Effective immediately. I wanted you all to know before the headlines hit tomorrow." Camera flashes erupted. Phones lifted. The feeding frenzy began. Nadia's legs threatened to buckle, but she locked her knees. 7 years. 7 years of standing beside this man, of building his empire with him, of weathering the storms that came with being a black woman married to a white billionaire in a world that loved to watch them both. And he was ending it like this? Like a business transaction announced at a shareholder meeting? Marcus finally looked at her. His blue eyes were ice. "You'll have my lawyers contact yours in the morning." That's when she saw it. The slight curl of satisfaction at the corner of his mouth. He was enjoying this. The humiliation wasn't a side effect. It was the point. Before we continue, take a moment to hit that subscribe button and let us know where you're watching from. We love seeing how far our stories travel. And trust me, this one will make you think twice, because it could happen to anyone. Nadia's hands curled into fists inside her silk gloves. The urge to scream clawed up her throat, but she swallowed it down. These people wanted a show. They wanted to see her break. The blogs would run wild with it. Billionaire's black wife falls apart at gala. They'd dissect her tears, analyze her pain, turn her devastation into entertainment. She wouldn't give them that. Instead, Nadia did something she'd learned from 7 years of being underestimated. She smiled, not a sad smile, not a broken one. A smile that carried all the power Marcus thought he'd just stripped from her. "How generous of you, Marcus," she said, her voice steady despite the earthquake in her chest. "To give me this gift in front of all these witnesses." Confusion flickered across his face. That wasn't the reaction he'd planned for. Nadia turned to the crowd, her chin lifted. "I hope you all enjoy the rest of the evening. The food is excellent. I planned the menu myself. And please don't let this little announcement dampen your generosity. The Children's Hospital Fund still needs your donations." She walked toward the exit, each step measured, each breath controlled. The crowd parted like water. Someone whispered. Someone else gasped. But Nadia didn't stop. Didn't look back. Didn't let them see the way her vision was blurring or how her heart was shattering into pieces small enough to disappear. The elevator doors closed behind her with a soft chime. Then, she collapsed. 6 hours earlier, Nadia had been happy. Foolishly, dangerously happy. She'd woken in their penthouse apartment with sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, Marcus's arm draped across her waist. He'd kissed her shoulder, mumbled something about loving her, then disappeared into the shower. Normal. Safe. Like the 7 years before it. Nadia had chosen the emerald gown from her closet, Marcus's favorite color on her, he'd said once. She'd worn her hair natural, the coils framing her face in the way that made her feel most like herself. She'd even let herself imagine that tonight might be the night Marcus finally announced what they'd been discussing for months, starting a family. How stupid she'd been. The truth was, the signs had been everywhere. She just hadn't wanted to see them. 3 months ago, Marcus had stopped coming to bed at the same time. He'd blamed work, blamed stress, blamed the new hotel acquisition in Singapore. Nadia had believed him, because believing him was easier than facing the alternative. 2 months ago, she'd found a receipt in his jacket pocket, dinner at Le Bernardin for two, on a night he'd said he was in meetings until midnight. When she'd asked about it, Marcus had laughed, said it was a business dinner with a potential investor. She'd let it go because she'd wanted to trust him. 1 month ago, his mother had called. Victoria Hale, the woman who'd never quite accepted that her son had married a black woman, had asked Nadia a strange question. "Are you prepared for what's coming?" Nadia had thought she meant the gala, the pressure of hosting 300 of the city's elite, the scrutiny that always came with being Marcus Hale's wife. She'd been so wrong. Now, crumpled on the elevator floor, Nadia's phone buzzed. A text from her sister, Simone. "What the hell just happened? Twitter is exploding. Call me now." Nadia didn't call. She couldn't. Speaking would make it real, and right now, in this elevator descending from the 48th floor, she needed to believe that maybe this was a nightmare. Maybe she'd wake up and Marcus would be beside her, apologizing, explaining that he'd lost his mind temporarily. The elevator doors opened to the parking garage, and there, leaning against her car, the Mercedes Marcus had given her for their 5th anniversary, was a woman Nadia had never seen before. Young, blonde, smiling. "You must be Nadia," the woman said, her voice sugary sweet. "I'm Amber. Marcus asked me to give you this." She held out an envelope. Nadia's hands shook as she took it. Inside were divorce papers, already prepared, already signed by Marcus, and a note in his handwriting. "Sign these by morning. The prenup is clear. You get nothing. Leave quietly, and I'll make sure you're not completely destroyed." Nadia's vision went red. "He also wanted me to tell you," Amber continued, still smiling that terrible smile, "that he'll be staying with me tonight. And most nights. We've been together for 8 months. He said you'd understand." 8 months. 8 months of lies, of pretending, of making Nadia believe she was loved while he built a life with someone else. The rage that flooded through her was biblical. But beneath it, something else stirred. Something colder. Something that had been dormant for years but was now waking up with teeth bared. Marcus Hale thought he could humiliate her and walk away. He thought she was weak, disposable. Someone who'd sign his papers and disappear into whatever shadows he believed black ex-wives belonged in. He had no idea who she really was. Nadia looked at Amber, this girl who couldn't have been more than 25, who probably thought she'd won some kind of prize, and felt something close to pity. "Tell Marcus," Nadia said quietly, folding the divorce papers and slipping them into her purse, "that I'll see him in court." Amber's smile faltered. "He said you'd just sign—" "I know what he said." Nadia unlocked her car, her hands steady now. "But Marcus forgot something important about me." "What's that?" Nadia slid into the driver's seat, started the engine, and looked at Amber through the open window. "I'm the one who made him a billionaire, and I'm the one who's going to take it all away." She drove off before Amber could respond, leaving the girl standing in the parking garage with confusion written across her face. The penthouse was dark when Nadia returned. Marcus wasn't there, probably with Amber, celebrating his grand humiliation. Good. She needed the space to think, to plan, to remember. Nadia poured herself a glass of wine and stood at the windows overlooking the city. Manhattan glittered below, a testament to money and power and the people who wielded both like weapons. She'd helped build Marcus's empire. While he'd been the face, the charismatic billionaire who charmed investors and closed deals, she'd been the strategist, the one who analyzed markets, identified opportunities, structured acquisitions. Marcus Hale Industries had been worth $200 million when they met. It was worth $3 billion now, and Nadia had the receipts. She pulled out her phone and made a call. It was late, but the person who answered never slept when money was involved. "Nadia!" The voice belonged to Gerald Chen, the most ruthless corporate attorney in New York. "I just saw what happened at the gala. Tell me you're not calling to cry." "I'm calling to go to war," Nadia said. Silence. Then, "I'll be there in 20 minutes. Nadia hung up and walked to Marcus's study, the one room in the penthouse he'd always kept locked. She'd never questioned it before. Privacy, he'd said. Everyone needs space. But tonight, Nadia didn't care about privacy. She found the key where Marcus always hid spare things, in the false bottom of his antique desk drawer. The study door opened with a soft click. Inside were filing cabinets, computers, documents scattered across the mahogany desk. And on the computer screen, still open, was an email chain that made Nadia's blood run cold. The emails were between Marcus and someone named Richard Stokes, a name Nadia recognized. Stokes was a corporate raider, the kind of man who dismantled companies and sold them for parts. The kind of man Marcus had always claimed to despise. But these emails told a different story. Marcus was planning to sell Hale Industries. Not just sell it, gut it. Liquidate the assets, fire the employees, pocket the cash, and disappear. And he'd been planning it for over a year. The gala announcement wasn't just about humiliating Nadia. It was about getting her out of the way before she could stop him. Nadia's hands trembled as she read email after email. Marcus had already signed preliminary agreements. The sale would go through in 48 hours. Thousands of people would lose their jobs. The company she'd helped build would cease to exist, and Marcus would walk away with billions. A sound behind her made Nadia spin around. Marcus stood in the doorway, still in his tuxedo, his face a mask of fury. "What the hell are you doing in here?" he demanded. Nadia held up a printed email. "What am I doing? What are you doing, Marcus? Selling the company? Destroying everything we built?" "We?" Marcus laughed, bitter and cold. "You didn't build anything, Nadia. You were decoration. A diversity hire I turned into a wife because it looked good for business." The words hit like physical blows. Nadia had known Marcus could be cruel. But this was something else. This was a man who'd been pretending for 7 years, who'd never loved her, who'd used her and was now discarding her like trash. "The prenup is ironclad," Marcus continued, stepping into the study. "You get nothing. Not the penthouse, not the cars, not a single dollar. Sign the papers by morning, or I'll make sure every media outlet in the country knows what a gold-digging—" "Don't!" Nadia's voice cut through his threat like a blade. "Don't you dare finish that sentence." Marcus smirked. "Or what? You'll cry? You'll call your sister? You'll hire a lawyer who'll tell you exactly what I'm telling you now. You have no power here." Nadia met his eyes. "You're right about one thing. I don't have power here." Marcus's smirk widened. "Finally, you're being realistic. But I have something better." Nadia pulled out her phone and held it up. On the screen was a recording app. Red light blinking. "I have proof of everything. The emails, the sale, your plan to destroy the company and leave thousands of people jobless. And in about 30 seconds, this recording of you admitting you used me, your black wife, as a diversity hire for optics? That's going to be very interesting to your shareholders, and to the board, and to the SEC, since I'm pretty sure insider trading laws might have something to say about your secret sale." The color drained from Marcus's face. "You wouldn't," he whispered. Nadia stepped toward him, her heart pounding but her voice steady. 7 years, Marcus. 7 years I gave you. 7 years I loved you. 7 years I built this empire with you. And you thought you could throw me away like I was nothing? She stopped inches from him, her eyes burning. Sign new divorce papers, Nadia said quietly. Fair ones. 50-50 split, or I release everything. And you don't just lose the company, you lose your freedom. White-collar prison is still prison. Marcus's jaw clenched. Fury and fear warred across his face. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, finally, You'll regret this. No, Nadia said, her voice like steel. You will. She walked past him, out of the study, out of the penthouse. And this time, she didn't look back. The sun rose over Manhattan like a judgment. Nadia hadn't slept. She'd spent the night in a hotel suite, nothing extravagant, just a place Marcus wouldn't think to look, reviewing every document she'd photographed from his study. Gerald Chen had arrived at midnight with 2 associates and enough coffee to fuel a small army. By dawn, they had a strategy, and it was brutal. The prenup has a clause, Gerald said, tapping his pen against a stack of papers. His eyes were sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses. Infidelity voids the standard terms. If we can prove Marcus was unfaithful, you're entitled to a 50-50 split regardless of what he wants. Nadia sipped her coffee. It tasted like ash. We have Amber. 8 months, she said. That's proof. We need more than testimony from the mistress, one of the associates chimed in. A young woman named Kelly with red hair and a shark's instinct for blood. We need paper trails, hotel receipts, text messages, photos, the kind of evidence a judge can't ignore. Then we get it. Nadia set down her cup. Her hands were steady now. The shock from last night had crystallized into something harder, something focused. Marcus is careless when he thinks he's won. He'll make mistakes. Gerald leaned back in his chair. There's something else. These emails about the company's sale, they're not just unethical, they're illegal. Marcus is planning to sell assets he doesn't fully own. You hold 20% of Hale Industries stock. It was gifted to you on your 3rd anniversary. He can't liquidate without your approval. Nadia blinked. She'd forgotten about the stock. Marcus had made such a show of giving it to her. A romantic gesture, he'd called it. A symbol of partnership. She'd signed papers and never thought about it again because she'd trusted him. Now that trust was ammunition. So what you're saying, Nadia said slowly, is that Marcus can't sell the company without me. Exactly. Gerald smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. And if he tries, we file an injunction, stop the sale, expose him to the board and shareholders. By the time we're done, Marcus Hale won't be able to sell a lemonade stand. Nadia felt something unfamiliar bloom in her chest. Not quite hope. Stronger. Sharper. Power. Do it, she said. File everything. Injunction, infidelity claims, all of it. I want Marcus to wake up today and realize he made the biggest mistake of his life. Gerald nodded and stood. Consider it done. But Nadia, be prepared. Marcus will retaliate. Men like him don't lose gracefully. Neither do women like me, Nadia replied. By noon, the city was on fire. The news had spread like gasoline meeting flame. Billionaire Marcus Hale announces divorce at charity gala. The headlines screamed from every news site, every gossip blog, every social media platform. Photos of Nadia's face, shocked, composed, then defiant, were everywhere. The think pieces had already started. The humiliation of Nadia Hale, when billionaires weaponized divorce. But something else was happening too. People were angry. Not at Nadia, at Marcus. The comments sections were brutal. Who announces a divorce like that? He's a monster. She handled it with so much grace, I would have slapped him. This is why we don't trust billionaires. And then came the other stories, the ones Nadia hadn't expected. Former employees of Hale Industries started talking. Anonymous accounts on Twitter, LinkedIn posts that couldn't be traced. They talked about Marcus's temper, his cruelty, the way he treated staff like they were disposable. One account claimed he'd fired a woman for getting pregnant. Another said he'd stolen credit for projects designed by underlings. The narrative was shifting. Marcus Hale, the charming billionaire philanthropist, was being exposed as something else entirely, and Nadia's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Simone called first. "Girl, are you okay? Do you need me to come up there? I will get on a plane right now." "I'm fine," Nadia said, though she wasn't sure that was true. "I'm handling it." "Handling it how?" "Nadia, that man humiliated you on live television, and I'm going to destroy him." The words came out cold, final. "He thought I was weak, Simone. He thought I'd just disappear. He was wrong." Silence on the other end. Then, "Okay, what do you need?" "A place to stay. Marcus will try to freeze my accounts. I need somewhere he can't find me." "You've got it. I'll text you the address." The second call was from Victoria Hale. Nadia almost didn't answer. Marcus's mother had never been cruel, but she'd never been warm either. Their relationship existed in a space of polite distance, like two diplomats from warring nations forced to share tea. But curiosity won. "Nadia." Victoria's voice was clipped, precise. "We need to talk." "If you're calling to defend Marcus, I'm not." A pause. "I'm calling to apologize and to warn you." Nadia's grip tightened on her phone. "Warn me about what?" "Marcus didn't come up with this plan alone. My son is many things, but strategic isn't one of them. Someone's been advising him, pushing him." Victoria's voice dropped lower. "I think it's Richard Stokes." The corporate raider, the man from the emails. Why would Stokes want Marcus to destroy his own company? "Because Stokes doesn't want the company," Victoria said. "He wants the assets. The properties, the patents. Hale Industries is worth more in pieces than it is whole. Marcus is too arrogant to see he's being used." Nadia's mind raced. "And you're telling me this because despite everything, I don't want to see my son destroy himself. And because—" Victoria hesitated. "You were good for him. Better than he deserved. He's making a mistake." It was the closest thing to affection Victoria had ever shown her. "It's too late for Marcus," Nadia said quietly. "But thank you for the warning." She hung up and immediately called Gerald. "We have a bigger problem," she said when he answered. "Richard Stokes isn't just buying the company. He's orchestrating this whole thing." Gerald swore softly. "That changes everything. If Stokes is involved, this isn't just a messy divorce. It's corporate warfare." "Then we treat it like war," Nadia said. The injunction hit at 3 p.m. Nadia wasn't there to see Marcus's face when his lawyers delivered the news, but she imagined it. The shock, the rage, the dawning realization that his perfect plan was falling apart. By 4 p.m., her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You just made a very big mistake. M." Nadia deleted it. At 5 p.m., the board of Hale Industries called an emergency meeting. Nadia wasn't invited, but Kelly had a contact who was. The insider sent updates throughout the evening. "Board is furious. They didn't know about the sale. Marcus is trying to spin it as a strategic move. They're not buying it. Vote of no confidence just called. This is insane." By 8 p.m., Marcus Hale was no longer CEO of his own company. The board had voted him out, temporarily, they said, until the legal issues were resolved, but everyone knew what temporarily meant in corporate speak. It meant over. Nadia stood in Simone's Brooklyn brownstone watching the news coverage on TV. Marcus's face filled the screen, a statement being read by his lawyer outside Hale Tower. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. In light of recent developments, the lawyer droned, Mr. Hale is stepping down from his position to focus on personal matters. He maintains his innocence regarding all allegations and looks forward to resolving this situation amicably. Amicably. As if he hadn't tried to destroy her less than 24 hours ago. Nadia's phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. Nadia Hale? A woman's voice. Professional. Cool. Who is this? My name is Dr. Sarah Mitchell. I'm a forensic accountant, and I've been investigating Richard Stokes for the SEC. I saw the news about your divorce, and I think we might be able to help each other. Nadia's pulse quickened. I'm listening. Stokes has been targeting mid-sized companies for years. He finds CEOs who are vulnerable, personal scandals, financial pressure, ego problems, and he manipulates them into selling. Then he liquidates everything and moves on. We've been trying to build a case against him, but we've never had an insider. You think Marcus is an insider? I think Marcus is a victim who doesn't know it yet. And I think you might have evidence we can use. Dr. Mitchell paused. If you're willing to cooperate. Nadia looked at the TV screen, at Marcus, who was probably at this moment plotting his next move, who still thought he could win. What do you need? Nadia asked. Everything you have. Emails, documents, recordings. If we can prove Stokes manipulated Marcus into this sale, we can stop him, and we can make sure Marcus faces consequences for his part in it. Send me the details, Nadia said. I'll get you what you need. She hung up and felt something settle in her chest. This wasn't just about the divorce anymore. It wasn't even about revenge. It was about justice. The attack came at midnight. Nadia was asleep in Simone's guest room when her sister burst through the door, phone in hand, face pale. Nadia, wake up, now! Nadia bolted upright. What? Marcus just went on Twitter. Simone held out her phone. The tweet was pinned to the top of Marcus's verified account. 10 million followers would see it. My soon-to-be ex-wife has made serious allegations against me. I want to be clear. Nadia Hale married me for money and has been planning this divorce for months. I have proof that she's been embezzling from Hale Industries. The authorities have been notified. #truth. Below the tweet were attachments, documents that appeared to show wire transfers from company accounts to offshore holdings. Nadia's signature on forms she'd never seen before. Her stomach dropped. These are fake, Nadia whispered. I know, Simone said. But they look real, and people are already believing him. Nadia grabbed her own phone. The notifications were exploding. News outlets picking up the story. Comments turning vicious. I knew she was a gold digger. He should have never married her. The racist undertones weren't even hidden anymore. Marcus wasn't just fighting back. He was trying to destroy her completely. Nadia's hands shook as she dialed Gerald. I saw, he said before she could speak. We're already on it. These documents are forgeries, Nadia. Obvious ones. Marcus is desperate. Desperate enough to accuse me of a crime? Desperate enough to commit one himself. Falsifying documents, filing false reports. He's digging his own grave. Gerald's voice hardened. But we need to move fast. Get ahead of this before it spirals. How? We go public. Press conference. Tomorrow morning. You tell your side of the story. And we bring proof that Marcus is lying. Nadia closed her eyes. The idea of standing in front of cameras again, of exposing herself to more scrutiny, made her want to disappear. But disappearing was what Marcus wanted. "Set it up," she said. "I'll be ready." The press conference was scheduled for 10 a.m. at Gerald's law firm in Midtown. Nadia dressed carefully. A navy suit, professional, unthreatening. Hair pulled back, minimal jewelry. She looked like a woman who had nothing to hide. Because she didn't. The conference room was packed with reporters. Cameras lined the walls. The energy was electric, predatory. They wanted blood. Nadia just had to make sure it wasn't hers. Gerald stood at the podium first. "Thank you for coming. My client, Nadia Hale, will be making a brief statement regarding the false accusations made against her by her estranged husband, Marcus Hale. We will not be taking questions at this time." He stepped aside. Nadia took his place, her heart hammering against her ribs. She looked directly into the cameras. "2 days ago," Nadia began, her voice steady, "my husband announced our divorce at a public event in an attempt to humiliate me. Last night, he accused me of embezzlement, a crime I did not commit. The documents he provided are forgeries, and we will be filing charges for defamation and fraud." She paused, letting that sink in. "But this isn't just about me. Over the past 48 hours, I've learned that Marcus Hale has been planning to sell Hale Industries in a deal that would leave thousands of employees jobless and destroy a company that many of you have invested in. He did this in secret, with the help of corporate raider Richard Stokes. I tried to stop him. So he decided to destroy me instead." The room was silent except for the clicking of camera shutters. "I loved my husband," Nadia said, and her voice finally cracked. "For 7 years I stood by him. I helped him build his empire. And the moment I became inconvenient, he threw me away. But I'm not going anywhere, and I'm not staying silent." She stepped back from the podium. The room erupted. By noon, the narrative had shifted again. Public opinion was swinging back in Nadia's favor. The forged documents were being analyzed by experts who confirmed they were fake. Marcus's tweet had been deleted, but screenshots lived forever. And then the bombshell dropped. Dr. P. Sarah Mitchell from the SEC released a statement. "The Securities and Exchange Commission has opened an investigation into Marcus Hale and Richard Stokes regarding potential securities fraud, market manipulation, and conspiracy. We encourage anyone with information to come forward." Marcus was being investigated by the federal government. Nadia watched the news coverage from Simone's living room, feeling something between vindication and exhaustion. Her phone rang. Unknown number again. This time, when she answered, it was Marcus. "Nadia." His voice was ragged, broken. "Please, we need to talk." "There's nothing to talk about." "I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry, I made a mistake, a huge mistake. Can we meet? Somewhere private? I'll sign whatever you want. Fair terms. Just, please." Nadia closed her eyes. Part of her, the part that had loved him for 7 years, wanted to believe he meant it. But she'd learned her lesson. "You humiliated me, Marcus. You tried to destroy me. And now that you're losing, you want mercy?" I know I don't deserve it. But Nadia, Stokes is threatening me. He's saying if I don't finish the sale, he'll... Marcus's voice dropped to a whisper. "I'm in danger. Real danger. Please." For a moment, Nadia hesitated. Then she remembered Amber in the parking garage, the forged documents, the 7 years of lies. "You made your choice," Nadia said quietly. "Now live with it." She hung up, and for the first time since this nightmare began, she felt something close to peace. The call came at 3 a.m. Nadia jerked awake to her phone buzzing violently on the nightstand. Unknown number. She almost declined. Nothing good ever came from calls at this hour, but instinct made her answer. "Ms. Hale?" A man's voice. Formal. Tense. "This is Detective James Morrison with the NYPD. I'm calling about your husband." Nadia's stomach dropped. What happened? Marcus Hale was found unconscious in his office at Hale Tower approximately 2 hours ago. He's alive, but we need you to come to Mount Sinai Hospital. There are some things we need to discuss. The line went dead. Nadia sat in the darkness, her mind racing. Marcus was in the hospital, unconscious, and the police wanted to talk to her. This wasn't over. Somehow it was getting worse. She dressed quickly and drove through empty streets to the hospital, her hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles went white. Simone had offered to come with her, but Nadia needed to do this alone. Whatever was waiting for her at Mount Sinai, she had to face it without backup. The hospital lobby was sterile and fluorescent. Detective Morrison was waiting, a middle-aged man with gray at his temples and eyes that had seen too much. "Ms. Hale." He didn't offer his hand. "Thank you for coming. Your husband is in intensive care. He ingested a significant amount of sleeping pills mixed with alcohol. The doctors are calling it a suicide attempt." The words hit like a physical blow. Suicide attempt. Marcus had tried to kill himself. That's not possible," Nadia heard herself say. "Marcus wouldn't." The circumstances suggest otherwise. Detective Morrison pulled out a tablet, showing her photos. "We found him at his desk with an empty bottle of pills and a half-empty bottle of scotch. And this." He swiped to a new image, a handwritten note. "I can't do this anymore. The lies, the pressure. I've destroyed everything. I'm sorry, Nadia. I'm so sorry." Nadia's legs went weak. She grabbed the edge of a chair to steady herself. "We need to ask you some questions," Morrison continued. "Your divorce has been all over the news. There have been allegations, counter-allegations. We need to understand the timeline of events leading up to tonight." "You think I did this?" The realization was cold, final. "You think I drove him to this?" Morrison's expression didn't change. "We're just trying to understand what happened, ma'am." The interrogation room was small and gray. Nadia sat across from Morrison and another detective, a younger woman named Chen, who watched Nadia with hawk eyes. They asked questions for 2 hours. What was her relationship with Marcus like? Had there been violence? Threats? Had she known he was unstable? Nadia answered everything truthfully. The divorce, the humiliation, the forged documents, the SEC investigation. She explained how Marcus had tried to destroy her, how she'd fought back, how everything had spiraled out of control. "So you're saying," Chen said slowly, "that Marcus Hale orchestrated his own downfall, and when he realized he was losing, he decided to end his life." "I don't know what he decided," Nadia said, exhaustion making her words heavy. "All I know is that 2 days ago, he tried to destroy me, and now he's in a hospital bed." Morrison leaned forward. "Ms. Hale, we've reviewed Marcus's phone records. He called you 4 hours before he was found. The call lasted 3 minutes. What did you talk about?" Nadia's throat tightened. "He asked to meet. He said Richard Stokes was threatening him. He said he wanted to apologize, to sign fair divorce terms." "And what did you say?" The words felt like poison. "I told him to live with his choices. Then I hung up." The room was silent. Chen's expression shifted. Not quite accusatory, but close. "So the last thing you said to your husband, a man who was clearly in distress, was essentially deal with it yourself?" "I didn't know." Nadia's voice cracked. "I didn't know he was going to do this. He'd been lying to me for months, threatening me. I thought he was manipulating me again." Morrison stood. "We're done for now. But don't leave the city, Ms. Hale. We may have more questions." They let her go. Nadia walked through the hospital corridors in a daze. This couldn't be happening. Marcus couldn't actually have tried to kill himself. It had to be another manipulation, another scheme. But what if it wasn't? What if she'd pushed too hard? A nurse stopped her in the hallway. "Are you Nadia Hale?" Nadia nodded. "Your husband is awake. He's asking for you." Marcus looked like a ghost. He lay in the hospital bed connected to machines, his skin pale, his eyes hollow. When Nadia entered the room, he turned his head slowly toward her. "You came," he whispered. Nadia stood at the foot of the bed, her arms crossed. "The police called. I didn't have a choice. I'm sorry." Tears slid down Marcus's face. "God, Nadia, I'm so sorry. For everything. I was wrong. About all of it." "Why did you do this, Marcus?" The question came out harsher than she intended. "Why try to kill yourself? Was it guilt? Fear? Another way to make me look like the villain?" Marcus flinched. "I deserve that. Answer the question." He closed his eyes. "Stokes came to see me tonight. He said if I didn't complete the sale by tomorrow, he'd release information that would destroy me. Financial fraud, tax evasion, things I did years ago that I thought were buried. He had proof, Nadia. Real proof. I was going to prison. So you decided to kill yourself instead." "I decided I couldn't face what was coming. The humiliation, the trial, watching everything I built disappear." Marcus opened his eyes, and they were full of something Nadia had never seen before. Genuine fear. "I thought if I was gone, it would all just stop." Nadia felt something twist in her chest. Not sympathy exactly, something more complicated. "You did this to yourself," she said quietly. "Every choice, every lie. You brought this on yourself, Marcus." "I know." He reached toward her with a trembling hand, then let it drop. "But I need you to know, everything I said at the gala, everything I did after, it wasn't because I didn't love you. It was because Stokes convinced me that you were the problem, that if I got rid of you, I could fix everything. I was weak and stupid, and I destroyed the only good thing in my life." Nadia's eyes burned, but she refused to cry. Not here. Not for him. "The documents he showed about embezzlement," Marcus continued. "Those were his. He forged them and gave them to me. Said it would discredit you if you tried to fight back. I didn't question it because I wanted to believe you were the enemy. It was easier than admitting I was the one who ruined everything." "Why are you telling me this now?" Marcus's laugh was bitter. "Because I have nothing left to lose. Stokes destroyed me, and I let him because I was too arrogant to see it happening." The machines beeped steadily in the silence that followed. Nadia felt the weight of 7 years pressing down on her. 7 years of love and lies and broken promises. Part of her wanted to walk away and never look back. Let Marcus face the consequences alone. But another part, the part that remembered who he'd been before the greed and the paranoia, couldn't do it. "I'm not signing unfair divorce terms," Nadia said finally. "And I'm not dropping the legal actions against you. You hurt me too badly for that." Marcus nodded. "I understand. But I'll help you with Stokes." His eyes widened. "What?" "The SEC is building a case. They need evidence. If you cooperate, if you give them everything you have on Stokes, maybe you can avoid prison. Maybe you can save some part of your life." Nadia moved closer to the bed. "But Marcus, if this is another manipulation, if you're lying to me again, I will destroy you myself. Do you understand?" "I understand." His voice was barely a whisper. "Thank you." Nadia turned to leave, then stopped at the door. "For what it's worth, I did love you. The person you were when we met. Before all of this. I loved you too, Marcus said. I just forgot how to show it. Nadia walked out without responding. The next 48 hours were chaos. Marcus, from his hospital bed, gave a full confession to the SEC. Every meeting with Stokes, every illegal transaction, every manipulation. Dr. Sarah Mitchell arrived with her team, and they recorded everything. Marcus signed documents, provided passwords, handed over files that would take months to fully analyze. Gerald worked around the clock to structure a deal. Marcus would cooperate fully with the investigation. In exchange, prosecutors would recommend reduced sentencing. He'd still face consequences, probably house arrest, probation, massive fines, but not decades in prison. Meanwhile, Richard Stokes disappeared. His office was abandoned, his phone disconnected. The man who'd orchestrated the entire scheme had vanished like smoke. But the SEC had enough. The evidence Marcus provided was damning. Warrants were issued, assets were frozen. Even if Stokes ran to another country, his empire was crumbling. The news coverage was relentless. Billionaire suicide attempt linked to corporate conspiracy. Marcus Hale cooperates with federal investigation. The rise and fall of a Manhattan mogul. And through it all, people had questions about Nadia. Was she a victim or a villain? Had she pushed Marcus too far, or had she simply fought back against a man who tried to destroy her? The truth, Nadia realized, was that she was both, and neither. She was just a woman who'd been underestimated, who'd found her power when she had nothing left to lose. 3 weeks later, Nadia stood in the conference room at Hale Industries. The board had invited her to a special meeting. She wasn't sure what to expect. Accusations, apologies, or something in between. What she found was opportunity. Ms. Hale, the chairman began. A silver-haired man named Davidson who'd always been polite but distant. In light of recent events, the board has been reassessing the leadership of this company. Marcus is obviously unable to continue as CEO. The interim replacement has been inadequate. Nadia waited. We've reviewed your role in building Hale Industries over the past 7 years. Your strategic insights, your market analysis, the acquisitions you structured. Davidson paused. We'd like to offer you the position of CEO. The room tilted. You want me to run the company? Nadia said slowly, making sure she'd heard correctly. We want you to save it. Another board member, a woman named Torres, interjected. The Stokes situation has damaged our reputation. We need someone who understands the business and can restore trust. You're that person. Nadia looked around the table. These were the same people who'd watched Marcus humiliate her at the gala, who'd probably whispered about her behind closed doors, who'd never quite seen her as an equal. Now they were offering her everything. I have conditions, Nadia said. Davidson nodded. We expected that. First, the company commits to transparency. No more secret deals. No more backroom negotiations. Everything gets board approval. Agreed. Second, we implement a profit-sharing program for employees. The people who built this company deserve to benefit from its success. Torres smiled. We can work with that. Third, Nadia said, her voice hardening, we establish a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination and harassment, and we hire independently to audit our practices. This company will never again treat people as disposable. The room was silent for a moment. Then Davidson extended his hand. You have a deal, Ms. Hale. Or should I say, Ms. Beaumont. Nadia had reclaimed her maiden name the week before. Beaumont felt like armor, like a reminder of who she'd been before Marcus and who she was becoming after him. Ms. Beaumont, she said, shaking his hand. And I accept. 6 months later, the world looked different. Hale Industries, now rebranded as Beaumont Global, was thriving under Nadia's leadership. The stock price had recovered. Employee morale was the highest it had been in years, and the company had just been named one of the best places to work in America. Richard Stokes had been arrested in the Cayman Islands and extradited to face charges. His trial was scheduled for the following year, but the evidence was overwhelming. He'd spend the rest of his life in prison. Marcus had been sentenced to 3 years of house arrest and 5 years of probation. He'd lost almost everything: his reputation, his company, his freedom. But he was alive. And according to the therapist he was court-ordered to see, he was finally starting to understand the damage he'd caused. Nadia had seen him once since the sentencing. He'd asked to meet, to apologize properly. She'd agreed, mostly for closure. They'd met in a small cafe in Brooklyn, far from the Manhattan circles they used to travel in. Marcus looked older, worn down by consequences and regret. "I don't expect forgiveness," he'd said. "I just wanted to say thank you for not letting me completely destroy myself, for giving me a chance to make things right." Nadia had nodded. "I didn't do it for you, Marcus. I did it because I'm not the person you tried to make me into. I'm not cruel. I'm not vindictive. I'm just someone who refuses to be erased." "You never were," Marcus had said quietly. "I just couldn't see it until it was too late." They'd parted ways after that. No tears, no dramatic reconciliation. Just two people who'd once loved each other, acknowledging that some things, once broken, couldn't be repaired. And Nadia was okay with that. Now, standing in her office on the 48th floor of the building that used to bear Marcus's name, Nadia looked out at the city that had tried to destroy her. She'd survived. More than that, she'd won. Not in the way Marcus had tried to win, through manipulation and destruction, but by refusing to disappear, by standing up when everyone expected her to fall, by reclaiming her power and using it to build something better. Her phone buzzed. A text from Simone. "Dinner tonight? I want to celebrate my sister, the CEO. I'm buying. With your money, probably, since you're rich now." Nadia laughed. A real laugh, the kind she hadn't experienced in months, and typed back, "Deal, but I'm still paying. CEOs have expense accounts." She set down her phone and turned back to the window. The sun was setting over Manhattan, painting the sky in shades of gold and amber. Somewhere in the city, Marcus was in his apartment, living with the consequences of his choices. Somewhere else, Richard Stokes sat in a cell, his empire reduced to ash. And here, in this office, Nadia Beaumont, survivor, fighter, CEO, was writing the next chapter of her story. On her terms, with her power. And nobody was ever going to take that away from her again. Marcus Hale thought announcing their divorce would humiliate his wife and secure his empire. Instead, he lost everything: his company, his freedom, his future. Nadia didn't just survive his betrayal. She rose from the ashes he tried to bury her in and built something greater. Sometimes the person you underestimate is the one who changes everything. Sometimes justice isn't just about revenge. It's about reclaiming your power and refusing to let anyone define your worth. In the end, Marcus regretted it instantly. But by then, Nadia was already gone. Not into the shadows he'd planned for her, but into the light she'd claimed for herself.